It's January 18th, 84 degrees, and Saturday. I thought I'd take you on the next little adventure, maybe bigger than you think, of our lives. We were at Agden Lake Bible Camp, and we continue to work and to create a wonderful experience for children. In about 1969, the pastors who owned the camp began to grumble, and they wanted their children to come to camp for free. Now, mind you, the Clarks were making $200 a month because that's all the churches that were sending finances could afford to send for the Clarks to live. But these same churches still wanted to send their kids to camp for free. And my father said, there's no money for that. We are barely surviving. We're barely being able to do the things we need to do in the way of maintenance and improvements on the camp. So the pastors continued to grumble. We went through that next summer of 1969, and things were normal as far as the camp was going. In fact, it was growing, and there were over 1,200 kids coming through the camp that summer, both day camp and regular camp. So the whole place was bustling, full of energy, and it was a wonderful summer. The next summer, 1970, there continued to be rumbling, and through the year, there continued to be rumbling with these pastors. Dad and Mom continued to work hard and to forge forward with the programs that they had set out. And at the very end of the summer, someone came to my mother and they said, "We've heard that there are tickets for a charter flight to Japan, a round trip for $100 or something like that." So my parents decided that this would be something that they would like to go to Japan, and they would like to take us kids back because we hadn't been back since we were babies, and they really, really wanted us to go back. My mother was very anxious to go back. And so we got on those planes from Canada and flew to we flew to Osaka, Japan. And part of the reason for the charter flight was because they were going to the expo. So we stayed with some missionaries in Osaka, and then we went to the expo, which was very fun, lots of activity, and we played in the water. It was the first real vacation our family had since taking the job at Agden Lake Bible Camp. And so it was quite an adventure, and we loved being there. And of course, my mother was in her element, and she just loved being there. And we went to Tokyo, and we went into the Christian missionary kids school, and they tried to put us in the school for classes, and they found out that they didn't have any class for me. My class was full. So then they realized, well, then we can't go to school here. We can't have her not going to school. And I don't know if we were just going for a week or what it was, but at any rate, we couldn't get in. And so from after that month, we came back to Agden Lake Camp and again began to prepare for the next summer, feeding the horses, doing everything that our family normally did during the winter months, repairing the cabins, repairing the wagons, decorating, It was a never-ending show. And Christmas Eve came, and two of the pastors showed up at our door. And they brought a couple boxes of food. You know, in those days they would have the members of the church bring cans of food, and then they would hand those boxes out to the poor people. Well, the poor people were the Clarks working at their camp. So they brought these 2 boxes of food. It may have been more. I don't remember exactly how many it was. But they also came with news. And the news was, "You're fired. Merry Christmas." So you could imagine what a damper that put on Christmas for our family. And I don't remember myself being affected, and I don't think my dad and mom told us. But shortly after Christmas, we began to understand that we had to move. And there was a rush in that moving. So we had been attending Hilder Pearson Elementary School. And we'd been at Hilder Pearson, for me it was 5 years. And that was the only school I had ever known. Well, I had gone to a preschool, a Christian preschool, and then we went to Hilder Pearson. And so thinking of leaving, I mean, of course I didn't know what that meant. We had never really, other than going on this trip to Japan, I didn't remember Japan before, and I just hadn't experienced being uprooted. And some months later, some kids came who were the children of the new hiree. And as we were sitting on the railings of the corral looking at the horses, the little boy said to me, "These are all our horses now." And I didn't know what to say. I was so shocked and really brokenhearted. And it was as though someone were snatching all our entire life out from under us and sending us out like dogs to fend for ourselves. And they didn't want to wait until the school year ended, and so they forced the family out in the middle of the school year. I believe it was just before Easter, because we spent a week in some friend's beautiful home on the beach. And then there was a lady who was donating her house for us, and so we went to her house and stayed at this little house in the middle of Tacoma, and they said it's move-in ready. All you need is your toothbrush. And of course we walked in and were rather shocked at the whole experience, because now we went from living at a camp with 130 acres to a city in the middle of the city, on a city block, one little house on that block. Of course, we were shocked. And then they took us to the city schools, because, you know, in America, you got to go to school. And we had to go to that school. Well, for me, that was even more traumatic, because the teacher that I was supposed to have had gotten pregnant, and she left, and her husband had assured the school he would come and teach in her place. But although he did show up randomly, he was not consistently there. And so the children ran the classroom, and they ran it wildly. The poor substitute teachers, I just felt horrible for. And I had always been one who liked order and didn't think being disobedient to teachers was a very good idea. And so as these kids ran wild in the classroom, one day I just said, I raised my head and said, I'm going to the bathroom. And she said, okay, go ahead. And I got outside and I went to the principal's office and I said, those kids are crazy. They are just throwing chairs around and misbehaving. And so the principal turned the mic on the classroom, and sure enough, he heard nothing but chaos coming from the classroom. And then he went into the classroom, and it wasn't long before the kids figured out that I was the one that had told the principal what was going on in there. And so that day, they threatened me and then chased me out of the school, and my brother put me on the back of his bike and rode me away as the great hero. And the rest of that year was actually not a good year. It was very difficult. The children were mean, and of course I wasn't popular because standing up for what was right was not popular in an inner city school. And so the children were mean, and none of them wanted to be my friend, and it was awful. It was an awful year. So sometimes my mom and dad would let me play hooky and help pack because we were preparing to go to Liberia. Now you remember I told you about Jack and Nell Chinchin, and they had left the church in Clallam Bay, and they had gone to California for a bit, and then the next thing we knew, they were on their way to Liberia, and they would send these cassette tapes for us to listen to, which we loved to listen